Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Mark Parham podcast. My name is Mark Parham. You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com /Mark Parham _. Again, it's to spell Mark Parham, it's MarkParham is in Mary. But anyway, I wanted to talk about the movie industry. One of the things that I'm noticing, because I watch TV and I go on social media just like everybody else, but the movie industry is really, falling from grace. I remember back in the 90s, you had so many cool directors, so many cool ideas, and just a lot of just original movies, a lot of classic movies. And nowadays, it seems like all the movies are the same. And, you have as far as the ideas, I mean, you look at some of these movies and one movie will come out one month and that movie will look like another movie and it'll look like another movie. It's almost like, a lot of bigwigs in Hollywood see the success of one film and they say, you know what, let's try to copy and duplicate, that success. And it doesn't always work like that. I think, people, not having any originality is messing up the movie industry. I mean, if you look at it, action movies are all the same right now. Movies that have to talk, movies that are talking about romance are all the same. It's really horrible. The one thing I liked about the 90s is, you can almost tell, what directors, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't say you could tell what directors were, I'm sorry, but every director had their own style. I mean, Quentin Tarantino had his own style. You had so many others that had their own style. And it's like now it's everything is the same. And I think a lot of people are getting tired of it. And so you have that situation. And then you have forced diversity. Now, I know this might sound crazy coming from a black man such as myself, but, to take classic movies and say, well, you know what, we need a black character to be this, we need a white character to be that. I think that's hurting the movie industry. It sounds like a good thing, but if a character was written to be a black man or written to be a white man, then that's what they should play. I don't think we should sit up and say, well, since James Bond was white, why don't we try a black James Bond? I mean, if the person who came up with James Bond wanted James Bond to be white, then he should have some say so over the direction of the film or movie that person's trying to do. I think it's crazy that we sit up and we're making movies. It's almost like there's a Hollywood formula right now where it's just like, well, let's have this many black people in a movie. Let's have two white people over here. Let's have somebody from the LGBTQ community over here. I mean, it's getting tired, and I think people are waking up to it too. It's almost like this movie with Eddie Murphy. I forget what it's called, but it's almost like a horrible version of what is it? Sidney Poitier. I think he did a movie called Guess Who's Coming to Dinner or something like that, where it's an interracial couple and that the man brings the woman home and they meet the family or something like that. But I think what's going on now is just forced diversity. It's sort of sad. It's desperate, and people are getting tired of it. I mean, putting a character in a role that I don't even know how to explain it, but you know what I'm talking about. It's tired, and I think that people who are creating films should be able to create films how they want to create films. Not based on cancel culture and somebody not liking this, and to me it's corny. And you look at not only this forced diversity, as I like to call it, but there's too many reboots. It's just like you have 80,000 versions of Star Wars. You have people trying to remake classic movies from the 1980s. I mean, what was it? Coming to America with Eddie Murphy. They tried to remake that, and it never works out because, those movies represent a certain time in history. And to keep on making part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 80,000, it's not working. And that's another trend people are getting tired of. It's almost like if somebody said, well, you know what, we're going to go back in time and let's try to recreate another Godfather. Let's call it Godfather Part 5. It wouldn't work out. And It's just those movies, they were made at a certain time. It was a certain energy at that time, and to keep on trying to, put a, what do they say, a round, a square peg in a round hole or something like that. It just doesn't work. I think it's tired, and that's another reason why people who watch movies, like I do, we miss the '90s and the '80s and the '70s because you had just original classic films, especially in the '70s and '80s. I would say the '70s more so, but the '80s and the '90s. After the '90s, things started to get horrible, in my opinion, with films and just ideas and stuff like that. And the movies now are they're too predictable. I mean, you can predict what's going to happen in the end, and you have to make movies because of cancel culture and what people might say, and you can't do this, you can't do that. It almost it's ridiculous. I mean, you look at some of the movies back in the days, you didn't know if the good guy was going to win, if the bad guy was going to win. Now it's like, well, we're going to have the black guy who's, a part of whatever. We're going to make him the hero of the film because, that's what cancel culture says we should do. I mean, you can't even make the movies you want anymore because somebody might get offended. I like that back in the days, at least you had movies where, there was racism in movies and certain things were said, but it's like now an actor or a filmmaker has to walk on eggshells. You have to worry about, well, will this offend this community? Will that offend that community? And it's ridiculous. I mean, if we did that, if filmmakers did that back in the days, you wouldn't have certain Spike Lee movies. You definitely wouldn't have certain Quentin Tarantino movies. So I think we just need to get back to filmmakers making good films. I mean, yes, there's going to be some things that are said that you might not like. There might be some racism in the films, but you know what? That's the world. We're never going to get rid of racism. I mean, even though people talk about this utopia, and it's not going to happen in the film industry. There's always going to be certain stereotypes that, media companies put out. It is what it is. It's not going to stop. I mean, again, it's just the way of the world. So I think that filmmakers should be able to, if they want to, make things that are offensive to people. What's wrong with that? That's the world. There's things that are said about certain groups. I mean, I'm a black American. There's things that are said about black people that aren't correct and aren't true. But again, I believe in freedom of speech. And so just like that person might have an opinion, I have an opinion. And so, canceling somebody out or actor out because you don't like what they're saying, or a filmmaker because you don't like the message of a film, that doesn't help society. I mean, we have to get to a place where we have open discussions about certain things we see in the media that we don't like. I mean, it's just, being an adult or being an American or whatever you are. So that's just my take on that. And I look at not just the freedom of speech aspect in Hollywood, producers and directors being able to make the films they want to make, but we're to a point where you gotta, I don't know how to say it, but the film studios need to start supporting more independent filmmakers. Just sitting up and saying, well, you know what, if we put Brad Pitt in this movie, this will work out because 45% of the people who watch the movie are women. I mean, I just like that, back in the days, you didn't know what a filmmaker was going to do next. And right now, it's just this, I almost feel like it's a formula. Well, if we take this YouTuber here and this person and make this person an action star, I mean, you can almost predict what type of movies these filmmakers will make and what type of movies the film studios will put out. And, I don't know. To me, it's a mess. I think the film industry needs to get back to cultivating and, pushing new talent to the front. Some of these actors and stuff from the past, they're good. I think, some of them still have talent and they can still act, but it's time to, move on and create new stars. So, and not just new stars who are actors, and actresses, but, people need to start supporting independent filmmakers. I mean, yes, a lot of the budgets go to the big people who, have a past history of making classic films and stuff like that. But the industry will never grow if people don't support directors that are just starting out, that have new ideas. And it's almost like, I mean, it's just maybe my opinion, but if you don't push certain agendas, the film studios, they don't even want to give you funding now. I mean, we're to that point. We're almost to a point where it's like, if you say, well, you know what, I don't want to push this agenda. I don't want to push an agenda of, let's say, this liberal agenda that's going on. The film studios don't even want to support you, and I think it's a shame, and I think it needs to stop. I think there's room for Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians. I think there's room for everybody when it comes to representation on quote unquote the big screen. So just pushing these agendas, and some of these agendas are, to against the family, against Christianity. I mean, and I'm happy about some of the new generation because they're waking up to a lot of this stuff. I mean, you can't just keep on, pushing things out there that are false or that people don't believe in and expect people to automatically say, you know what, well, maybe we should convert to this or do that. So they're trying to normalize, if you will, certain agendas and behaviors, and it's not working. I think there's pushback now, and I'm glad. Again, people can think how they want to think and, believe what they want to believe, but just to keep on force feeding, that you have to be a liberal and you have to be against Christianity and you have to be against being pro-life. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I think, at this rate, a lot of the mainstream movies, at least, or the movies that I see on some of these, Netflix and some of these other streaming services, if this is going to be, the future of the industry, then I think a lot of folks are going to, and it's happening now, but they're going to stop going to theaters. They're going to stop supporting this stuff because it's getting too predictable. There's too many agendas being pushed. We got to get back to just making a classic film. Some stuff might be offensive. Some stuff might not be offensive, but we just got to get back to putting out good product. And it's not just the movie industry. It's happening in music. I mean, if you looked at even the Grammy Awards, I mean, you had folks, dressed up like the devil, and you had Madonna out there, and her face was, it was horrible. And I think some people are talking about a connection to the award show and Pfizer. It's like people are waking up to all of these agendas in the music industry and in the movie industry. People are waking up. I mean, I remember back even in the days with the music industry, you had an artist that would take their time to create a classic album. Now you have, just this rushed, music that people just throw online. It doesn't sound like anything. It has no message. And it's just like, oh, well, I'm just putting out music. And it sounds like something that somebody who, just, got a laptop and maybe a drum machine, something that they would just put out. I mean, we got to get back to, in both industries, music and movies, taking our time, creating something that'll last, stand the test of time, something that'll be a classic, something that the next generation will say, wow, I wish I would have come up with something like that. So, I think this industry is, both industries are, again, corruption's at an all-time high, and people trying to push agendas is at an all-time high, but we're not getting good quality. We're not getting, I remember back in the days, you could go to a store, and a music store, or even pick on up a movie, go to a Blockbuster, and you could just almost close your eyes. Somebody tell you, well, this is from 1994. You could pick it up, and it was something where if you press play, it was a classic. Now it's just like, it's a mess. I mean, we have a lot of outlets to put out music and movies, but I think every year things, keep on, they're in a decline. And so, that's just my take on the movie industry and the music industry. I know I'm rambling, but again, please follow my podcast, Mark Parham Podcast. I'm on Spotify. I'm on, wherever you can find a podcast, I'm there. So just like I said in the search, just type in Mark Parham, Parham as in Mary, podcast. And, thanks for your support. I'm sort of new to the game. I'm going to keep on putting out, more podcasts. And again, this is just my opinion. I know I'm rambling, but again, it is what it is. So thanks for listening. Bye.